Check, check one. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Check 1, check 1, 2, 3, 4. Check 1, check 1, 2, 3, 4. Bob, shake a camera if you can see, if you can hear me. Check, check 1, check 1, 2.
No,
Did you touch the?
I got nothing like that. I got wolf ears.
Yeah. Oh, you went to the Great Wolf Lodge.
Yeah.
We can't pick.
Call this meeting of the Craven County Board of Commissioners regular session for Monday, March 21st, 2022 to order. Madam Clerk, if you will, please call the roll.
Commissioner Mark,
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe,
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell. Here. Commissioner Smith. Here. Commissioner Liner.
Here.
Vice Chairman Booker.
Here.
Chairman Jones.
Here. Before we rise this morning to salute the American flag, and which will be followed by a prayer by our county attorney, I think all of us, our hearts are heavy this morning as we remember the 4 Marines based out of Marine Corps Air Station New River who were killed Friday when their MV-22 Osprey crashed under the stormy weather conditions in northern Norway. And let us keep that in our minds and their families, for all their fellow Marines, and for the service that they give on our behalf for our freedom. If you will, let's stand as we salute and pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious and everlasting God, we thank you for this, another glorious day that you have allowed us to see, and we honor you for your undying faithfulness towards us. Lord, help us to continually hold up the light of your love, and may we be always mindful of our collective duty to serve each other as we serve you. Teach us your ways and lead us in a plain path. Shine your light upon the road that our commissioners must travel. Give them grace and truth to guide their every decision. Unite them under the banner of your love and allow them to speak with one clarion voice that which you would have them say. Teach us all to lean on your everlasting arms and give us the grace to lead according to your everlasting word. Amen.
We welcome each and every one of you here today to the Board of Commissioners meeting. This is your meeting. We appreciate your attendance. For those that may be viewing online, we also welcome you. We do ask for those that are in attendance to please make sure that our phones are on silent so we would not disrupt the meeting today. Commissioners, you have there before you your agenda. Are there any items you desire to add or pull?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. Are there any discussions? Hear no discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next item would be the consent agenda. You have under consent agenda the March 7th, 2022 regular session meetings, tax releases and refunds. The Sheriff's Office has a budget amendment for donation and also a laptop donation. Are there any items that you desire to pull from the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hear none, Madam Clerk, if you will, please call the roll.
Commissioner Mark,
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe,
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith. Yes. Commissioner Liner.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Booker.
Yes.
Chairman Jones.
Yes. All right, next we have this morning a presentation, and I'm going to turn it over to our Vice Chair.
Yes, we welcome Mr. Rick Lanier. Rick is making a presentation to us this morning on behalf of the U.S. Motto Action Committee. And Rick, I'll just have you come to the podium here and do your thing.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Booker and Chairman Jones and the rest of the board for having me this morning. It's a pleasure to be here. Honorable elected officials, I just want to thank you for this great opportunity. This is an invitation to join the growing list of cities and counties that are voting yes to proudly and prominently display our national motto, "In God We Trust," in and on their governmental buildings and law enforcement vehicles as well. My name is Rick Lanier, and I'm Field Director for the U.S. Motto Action Committee. I served as County Commissioner from 1998 to 2002, at which time I led my Board of Commissioners to vote yes to display "In God We Trust" on the exterior of the Governmental Center. Soon after that, several surrounding cities and counties began join us in doing the same. We formed the U.S. Motto Action Committee for the sole purpose to promote patriotism by encouraging elected officials to vote yes to display "In God We Trust" in and on their governmental buildings. Displaying the motto gives ceremonial honor to public occasions, and it expresses confidence in our society. These words have been used on our U.S. currency since 1864, and this inspiring slogan is engraved above the entrance of the U.S. Senate chamber as well as above the Speaker's seat in the House of Representatives. On July 30th, 1956, during the Dwight D. Eisenhower administration, the U.S. Congress adopted the "In God We Trust" as the official national motto of the United States of America, thus displaying our motto as a legal right protected by our First Amendment. On November the 1st, 2011, the U.S. House of Representatives voted overwhelmingly 396-9 to reaffirm "In God We Trust" as our nation's motto. Congressman Randy Forbes of Virginia sponsored the resolution in part because some have mistakenly stated that "E pluribus unum" as our national motto. Most importantly, the resolution specifically encourages the placement of the motto in and on all governmental buildings, from courthouses to school classrooms. A recent survey shows that 87% of all Americans still support the display of our national motto, and rightly so. This is our nation's identity, folks. It is the very basis of our form of government. John F. Kennedy stated, "The guiding principle and prayer of this nation has been, is now, and shall ever be, in God we trust." In both times of war and peace, these words have been a profound source of strength and guidance to many generations of Americans. As a grassroots patriotic movement, the U.S. Motto Action Committee stands on solid legal ground. Since Davidson County, North Carolina paved the way, not one legal challenge has been raised against any city or county that had voted yes. This effort is totally legal. There's nothing to challenge. And I might add, we now have 60 North Carolina counties. Greene County just voted a couple of weeks ago. And with your vote today, it'll make 61 counties, and hopefully Pamela Cole tonight of 62 counties, plus 46 town halls so far. 100% of the cost comes from private donations, in most cases from your local citizens. And I might add, how often do you get something of this magnitude offered to you free of charge? As being a former commissioner, when somebody offered something free of this magnitude, it's kind of a no-brainer. All across our country, elected officials are quickly embracing the opportunity to display our great motto. Displaying the motto will serve as a perpetual reminder, folks, of our godly heritage as a country that's deeply ingrained in the hearts of people like those 4 Marines that just gave their life for this great country. Elected officials like you are showing a commitment to the values that our great country was founded upon. Thank you in advance for voting yes. I will be glad to answer any kind of questions you might have this morning.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lanier. We'll start off with questions, but we'll start with the Vice Chair. Do you have any questions?
I have no questions. I think the fact that 60 counties have already done it is a really good sign. So, no, I have no questions.
Okay. All right, Commissioners, other questions?
Oh, you're not going to read the resolution on this?
Do what now?
You're not going to read the resolution?
We will. We can. If we can get to ask questions. Good
Right.
point, though. Thank you for bringing it. Other questions from the board? All right, staff, you have prepared in our agenda packet today several sheets there. You want to just kind of go over it a little bit, Mr. County
Yes, sir.
Manager?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Attachment number 2 in your packet. There are 3 things included there. One is the resolution Commissioner McKay just mentioned, and that would be for your approval if you see fit. Then there's the first picture tab would be two different options for the front of this building. One is over where you're sitting here, right behind you. There's the windows that kind of curve out. It would be directly below that. And the other is where you walked in down below, kind of where as you come into that door off of Broad Street. There you go. It would be there. So that's your options. I spoke with Mr. Lanier. I don't think they really have a preference. It's really what the board sees fit there. And just to move on real quick to the next one before you have discussion, and Mr. Lanier requested this one as well, even though I told him we did have it in the room behind him underneath the screen there, even though it's partially covered by the screen, but there's also that option for the board to consider as well.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve, and you're asking to approve the resolution, correct?
Correct.
And by approving the resolution, we are giving the U.S. Motto Action Committee to begin an agreement with them so they can pursue working with the county.
Yes, and also they agreed to work with the city of New Bern because of the sign ordinance and things like that to make sure we're in compliance. That was something me and Mr. Lanier
All
had
right.
talked
City's
about.
got to approve it.
Okay, we have a motion and we had a second.
Right.
Any further discussion on the motion?
Which one did you which preference did you have for the building, just so I can give some guidance to Mr. Lanier?
Well, I think it looks really more prominent on the rounded part.
I think so.
does.
Do y'all not agree?
Yes.
The ladies of our committee, y'all better designers. Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Mitchell, do y'all have a preference?
I agree. I think it looks more prominent on the round, and I think prominence is part of the goal here.
Yes.
Because everybody can see it. But I don't know what Commissioner Smith thinks.
I have no preference, but I think perhaps the rounded part of the building may be the best option.
Okay.
I think it might show more prominently.
It does.
All right, I think we have
I will also say, Mr. Chair, I think up there, which is where the camera is always focused,
It'll match.
it works up there better, yes.
Here
exactly.
better than out here?
Well, no, I think we need it on the front of the building on the rounded
No,
part,
I'm talking.
but over
was
behind
this
here,
here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's better.
yes.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, okay, we have the motion and we have a second. We have a consensus on the desire. You need any further direction?
No, sir.
Staff? All right, Madam Clerk, if you will, please call the roll.
Commissioner Mark,
Yes.
Commissioner McKay,
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Liner,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Booker,
Yes.
Chairman Jones.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Lanier. We appreciate you being here today.
Thank you so much for your vote.
Thank you.
That was easy.
Yes, sir. Thanks again.
Take care.
All right, next on the agenda under departmental matters, we have recreation, the master plan update, Mr. Billy Wilkes. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, Commissioners. Got a one item today, and it's our master plan update. And departmental master plans are typically done about every 7 to 10 years. And we undertook this as a department. It's really an update to the 2015 plan. That was performed by East Carolina University students and staff. And it gave us an overall look at our recreation in the county back then. We've made, obviously, there's been a lot that's changed in the last 7 years. Included in your packet of information, you should have an executive summary, a blank copy of a needs assessment. That's kind of that was what we put out in the community. It was at all the town halls, libraries. The health department helped us with that as well. We had it at our office. And you could also fill it out online, and that's where we got the most of the results from the needs assessment. We had just about 350 folks respond. And in your packet also, you'll have several little slides on districts represented. You'll have what folks are looking for with the programs, the facilities, an accessibility update, and all opportunities. And there's like also how we communicate as a staff and as a department in there as well. So next slide, Steve, if you would. And why update a master plan? Well, it's two real simple reasons. Number one, like I mentioned, in 2015 was the last time we updated our master plan. And a lot's changed in 7 years, and a heck of a lot has changed in the last 2 years on how we do business. So an updated master plan also assists our department in a large way in securing grants. In fact, we're going after one this spring that we've talked about, which is the Parks and Rec Trust Fund grant, and we need to have this updated to get the maximum number of points allowed for that area. So next slide, Steve, if you would. I'm giving you a snapshot in this little PowerPoint presentation of what you have in your packet, just to kind of go through some of the slides, but I'm not going to go through the entire work that you have there. But district representation is always important. We want to make sure we hear from everybody. I think we did in this representation. We have, I think the lowest number was 24. The highest number was 72 in each district. So we heard from at least right around the mid-20s of every district on what they need in recreation. We even got 11 from outside the county. And with counties like Pamlico and Jones around us, there's going to be some participation from those counties as well. So we heard from a pretty good number of folks. And if you'll hit the next slide, Steve, we'll talk a little bit about that. So program participation. You always want to know who's using your facilities, who's involved in your programs. About 65% of the folks that responded at least had been in one program that we've offered in the last year. And then there's about 35% that we still need to get. So we got to get to them somehow. And, you know, we want folks to be more active. So if you'll hit the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about our communication methods. How do we get the word out? Well, years ago, it would have been newspaper and radio. Honestly, that's the way everybody was getting the word out. Nowadays, it's a little different. We still do flyers. In fact, we've got a couple guys on our staff that do a really good job with flyers, much better than I ever could. But we also have a real active website that we can completely update when something new comes along. Word of mouth is still going to be one of your ways to grow a program. If you're doing a good job, you'll hear about it. If you're doing a bad job, you'll know about it. So those are the two you usually hear about. The ones in the middle don't tend to, respond quite as much. And of course, Facebook. Of all the things that we've done in the last probably 5 years, that's where we've had the most success, honestly. We get a lot of response off of our Facebook posts. I think the most recent one was the Waterfront update at the dock. We had over 13,000 folks that viewed that Waterfront update, and consequently, I saw a lot of people walking through just wanting to check it out. So, and there's folks that probably have never been to that part of Creekside Park, and we finished that up last November. In addition to that, you get comments, and you look at the comments and you see what's out there, and for the most part, folks have been really positive posting on Facebook, and so that's probably our biggest avenue for advertising. It's also reasonable. I mean, we do boost some posts occasionally to get word out a little bit more, but other than that, cost is really negligent. Next slide, Steve. Instructional interest. Here's where you get into the nuts and bolts a little bit, and you'll start to see what folks want to see. So pickleball, we've talked about for quite a while, and you'll see that in the next several slides. We do have a really big group of folks that want to see us have pickleball courts. Lessons is in this one. Tennis lessons we have been doing for years and years, and they're really jumping. So you don't see as much of what folks want to see because we're offering about 6 classes right now in tennis. We also offer kayaking and golf and so on, but you see swimming's always brought up, yoga in that one, and then fishing classes, which I thought was really interesting. We've done special events with fishing, but we've never had an actual instructional class. Might be something to look at as well. But there's a whole host of activities folks want to see, and it never surprises me. Well, I shouldn't say it never surprises me. I get some things that do surprise me. I think roller skating for adults was the one that I heard from. I was like, what? I'd break everything I have if I tried to roller skate nowadays. But I've heard from a lot of folks that really enjoy that. The next slide, Steve, for me there. Athletic interest. There again, you see, and by the way, I'm noticing that my vision, as I'm looking that way, is quite not as good as it used to be. So maybe I need to. The Pickleball League was one, again, mentioned as we keep hearing about pickleball. Some of the other ones were tennis league, of course, disc golf league, which was a neat program request as well. And we do offer a disc golf course at Creekside, and there is actually a league that happens on Sunday afternoons out there. But just some of the interest that you see up there. Some of the ones that aren't mentioned in this one as the top, but that I've heard over and over again, are anything related to basketball. Has been a big request verbally for the last couple of years. So what's our next one? There, Steve, if you would. Facility interest. Here's where, back in 2015, this is one that hasn't changed. We get a tremendous amount of requests for walking trails and biking trails. And you see there, that's the top requested facility. And hopefully with this park that we are going after to try to complete in the next couple of years, we will add some trails, which is one interest level that just doesn't seem to drop. It just seems to continue to grow. And then pickleball courts also is an interest there. Sand volleyball lights is what we're hearing a lot about too. Now, we've got a tremendous amount of participation in our sand volleyball courts. If you go out there Saturday mornings, you'll see as many as 10 high schools playing from Eastern North Carolina, which is really neat. They play against each other, and then they practice during the week. We have a youth league this year, an adult league. We do instructional classes and camps and clinics. All of that happens on an 8-court system at Creekside, but sand volleyball lights is definitely a request that we keep hearing about time and time again. Of course, indoor recreation centers and space and pools also, we hear folks on that as well. So if you look at the next one, Steve. All right, so one of the things since 2015's plan that we have really worked at consistently, and that's because of the plan, but also because it's the right thing to do. We needed to add in some accessibility and some inclusiveness to our programs and to our facilities. And this is going to highlight just some of the things we've done in the last 5 or 6 years. At West Craven Park, recently, and this is thanks to your support, thanks to some grant writing as well, we were able to add a 1/4 mile walking trail, parking pads in several areas so folks can maneuver from the pad on a sidewalk to the facility without having to go over rougher areas, and it really means something to the folks that have mobility needs. And if you see that happen at one of the parks, which we do consistently, it really helps to see that we need to continue to look at these avenues. Swing sets with high back options, you've probably heard that up here a time or two, and we have pretty much updated every swing set we've got that now has a high back option, and that is great for folks that are children that don't have quite the strength to be able to sit up straight. Well, all of our swing sets now have that option, and they're all newer, which is awesome. Outdoor fitness equipment with an accessible water fountain. The equipment's accessible, the water fountain's accessible. All of that is kind of tied in. I wish there was a little picture that kind of showed you that area, but there's a sidewalk that gets you to each of these facilities as well. Next one, Steve. At Creekside, through several grants, we were able to add an inclusive playground in 2016, which we continue to try to monitor and keep up with, because this is the most used playground we've ever had. It's a wonderful resource for our community. It has a wheelchair swing. It has a high back seat. It has a ramp process to get to all of these. It has some slides specific to the folks that don't have as much mobility, but it was a great addition in 16. Now we're at 6 years old, so you're starting to see, wow, this thing is really getting used, so we're having to look at it each year and see what we need to do with that. Also, Bocce Courts, we've got an interest in bocce. We, through Lowe's, did a project back in 2016 where we put in some inclusive bocce courts. Additional walking trails, we've worked on those at pretty much every park, with some of them being paved, some of them being like a hard pea gravel. Parking and sidewalks to youth and adult fields as well. We've done a lot of that through county funds, through some help from some outside businesses, and through some grant funds. The accessible waterfront dock we already mentioned. New wheelchair accessible picnic tables, we've added those at the 2 primary shelters for folks that need those, and of course the high back options for swing sets as well. We've done that in 2 spots at Creekside Park. The next one's, I believe, is Rocky Run Park, Steve. And the playground equipment here, every new piece of playground equipment, there has to be a certain number of features and functions that meet accessibility guidelines. And that gets updated consistently. So just because you can't get on every piece of equipment, it has to have a certain percentage of accessibility able equipment, and that's what Rocky Run has now, and it also has the swing set with the high back option as well. That whole area's come around a long ways, and it's all tied into one kind of general area now where the whole play system is in place. See if you at the next one. Next steps. So we always want to know where we're going, and obviously I wanted to present to you what I thought was a good result from this needs assessment, because it gave us a chance to hear what the folks in the community are saying. Sometimes, you take it as a little bit of a slap. I take it as a challenge to see how many of those needs we can meet within reason. So we'll be working on all that they've asked for, whether it's through a program or through a facility that we can. And so I think it was a good process for us. It was a help with a lot of partners. Like I mentioned, the libraries and the city or town halls honestly helped. They all helped us. Nobody said no when we asked to put our information out. So that's the blessing of being in this community, to be honest with you. So our next step is honestly to bring it to you guys. If you approve it, what we'll do is the next step is we've got a public input meeting on April 11th. This would be on the new nature park. It's also part of this Parks and Rec Trust Fund grant that we're trying to accomplish. And that's at our recreation office from 6 to 8 p.m. on April 11th. And then the grant submittal, where we pull all this stuff together. And it is pretty cumbersome, but we're excited. We're getting to the point where we feel like we're going to get it together pretty soon, is May 2nd. So we've got about 6 weeks or so to complete that. Those are our next steps. And I guess my request for you as a group would be, if you were willing to accept the master plan, it would be our first step in kind of getting this process to a completion.
Okay, Commissioners, before we entertain a motion, do you have any questions for Mr. Wilkes?
I have a question that's indirectly. It wouldn't affect my yes or no.
Yes, ma'am.
But do you have other parks that have water access?
So the two that we have that have water access are Creekside Park and Latham Whitehurst Nature Park. So the Nature Park has a 2,000-foot dock that overlooks Broad Creek. It is a pretty good walk to get down to that location, and that's just the way that it sort of played out. But we do see fishing, we see kayaking, and if you've been along Broad Creek, it's kind of quiet down there. There's not a lot of powerboat traffic, which is really nice. This new park that we're proposing to try to get done does have that access, and you would be able to launch a kayak from that. We don't have any access for powerboats. That's typically what the city of New Bern provides, several of those locations, as does the state of North Carolina as well.
Okay.
I have one, Mr. Chair. I have a lot of young families in my area, in the Trent Woods area, and I consistently hear from them that they would like more centralized lacrosse fields.
Yeah.
With it, and I know we have them, but because this is a big county, and for people trying to get their kids to lacrosse after school, if it's 30 minutes away, it may rule it out for working parents.
Sure.
And I know all these things come with a price tag.
Oh, sure. So lacrosse would be an area we'd love to touch, as is football, because we really don't have dedicated. They can almost kind of work hand in hand, because lacrosse is in the spring, football's in the fall, and you can utilize, although it does tear up fields pretty good, you can utilize a facility for both. Currently, in the only park that we have that meets athletic needs in our area, or in the New Bern area, is Creekside Park. And that one is pretty much, if you would, examples would be, we've got almost 450 soccer players this spring that are playing at Creekside. It's the biggest number they've had in a while. So there's really, in our space right now, there's not an area that I would say is suitable for lacrosse/football practices. Now, doesn't mean that if we had additional space, that would be the next need that we would try to meet, but that's not been identified at this point. So, would love to see it because I hear the same thing a lot. So I honestly do. So yes, ma'am.
The vice chair had something, then we'll go back to you, Ms. Smith.
When I went with the county manager on a tour of the county when I was first elected, one of the places that he took me was the park on Broad Creek.
Yes, sir.
Latham.
Whitehurst.
Right. I have driven down that road many times and never ever noticed that.
Yes. Yeah.
So when we were at our commissioners' conference last year in Wilmington, we were in a workshop, and one of the things that came up was how can we get better usage of parks?
Right.
And I comment to the county manager, and I'd like to make to this group and to you specifically, we need to improve our signage of that park.
Yes.
So you and I drove it the other day, not for that reason, but I drove to Fairfield the other day, and until you're right on it, you don't see that sign.
Yeah.
Whether we could get a sign out by Highway 55, or at least improve the signage there. Maybe it means taking some trees down to open it up a little bit. I just wanted to propose that as something we really, I think, could get a lot more usage of that park if people became more aware of it and could see it easier.
And to your point, in our budget request for this year is to remove 3 trees that kind of preempt you from being able to see that sign at Latham Whitehurst. And if you're coming towards the park from New Bern, on your left-hand side, those 3 trees are what block that. That's what we're asking to take out this year. So that, if it passes, that would be done. We've got our guys, they are working on painting the sign. And each year, you're also going to see a request for new signage in our budget. This year, we started with Creekside Park and Rocky Run Park. Next year, we would come back and try to phase in each of the parks with a brand new sign, maybe better located. There's not a great location, but if we take out those 3 trees at the front, it does not do anything to the park except for it opens it up more.
Lots of trees there.
Yes, yeah.
I have a chainsaw if you need one.
Yeah, so we do have requests. Yes.
Commissioner.
I was wondering how much land you have to expand the parks.
Okay.
You have good land acreage
So
around the parks to
yeah, so
late expansion.
at let's see if let's take each one of them. Okay, so Latham Whitehurst Nature Park is going to always be natural in because the Coastal Land Trust essentially worked that into a donation to the county, so we cannot develop facilities like ball fields and things like that on there. We do have more area to develop more trails in that system. So I think you'll see that over the years. And to Denny's point, the numbers of folks have really jumped in 2 years since COVID with Latham. So we definitely need to, and that's why we're sort of addressing the sign issue that he mentioned this year. And I've also heard it from management as well. That needs to be, we need to be able to see that a little better. And then West Craven Park. That would be the park that probably has the most room to grow. We have about 90 acres out there, and we have quite a bit of space beyond the tennis courts area that we have, and then also beyond the football field area that we have. So, and I think around West Craven Park, we're starting to see significant growth. So I think in the future, that park can kind of keep going back. At Creekside Park, unfortunately, in the hub of a lot of building that's going on in Township 7, we really are landlocked. We don't have any more space, inside of the confines of Creekside Park. So if you drive from front to back, the front part of the park is designed and dedicated to what we have at this point. And then you go down each section, and there's really just not any more space that's usable within Creekside, other than the few small touches we've done with adding some trails and things like that don't really take up any additional space. So, and those are the 3 major parks. And at Rocky Run Park, it's a 5-acre park. You do have some space, and I love open space, by the way. So I don't love everything to be dedicated, because I think that opens up, play for kids. And so in Rocky Run, we do have some open space beyond the shelter and the playground going towards the houses that I think provides an opportunity if we wanted to do, a little bit of a field or something. But I love open space because it gives you those possibilities are all open. Anybody else?
Okay, any other questions? All right. So The request this morning is to approve the 2022 master plan update. Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Billy. We appreciate you. Thank you for what you do.
Yes, sir.
Next item is planning the Cdbg Neighborhood Revitalization Grant. Mr. Don Bumgardner and Mr. Chad Strong. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. The county has been officially notified by the North Carolina Department of Commerce Rural Economic Development Division of a grant award of $750,000 for housing-related Cdbg activity. The county will utilize the grant funds to perform activities up to 6 structures depending on final bid amounts. Currently, the needs assessment and qualification determinations are being completed, so individual recipients have not been chosen at this time. We did show in the actual application, we showed tentative folks, but we also have folks that are backups to those grant recipients in the event that the ones that we had put in the grant application for one reason or another do not actually end up getting processed as qualified recipients. In anticipation of the funding, the planning department did send out a request for proposal for grant administrative services, and we sent out proposals to 7 firms. We also posted an RFP on the state of North Carolina interactive purchasing system, and we saw results from 2 firms that came back and requested to respond to the RFP that we had sent out. We developed a rating sheet for these proposals based on the requested services that we had in the RFP. The firm that was the lowest bidder was a company called Insight Planning, LLC. That company is the company that we used to do work with and was known as Holland Consulting Planners. Mr. Holland retired, and as a result of that, he sold his company, and they renamed the company now to a company called Insight. We've been utilizing the people that work in that firm since 1987 on and off, and we've been satisfied with their work, and currently Insight is working with our hurricane expedited buyout program. At this particular conjuncture, the other company that responded was called the Adams Company, and they were very close in their ability to meet the requirements that we had set forth in our request for proposal. In fact, there was only one point that we had that kind of separated them. If you took both of the rating sheets and averaged them out, there was only one point that separated them. As a result of this, what we're doing at this point in time, in order for us to move forward with the administration of these grant funds, we need the commissioners to approve the grant agreement. We also need the project ordinance, budget ordinance adopted, the budget amendment, and the award of the contract to Insight Planning and Development. As I mentioned earlier, they were the lowest bidder for the proposed administrative services.
So moved.
I have a question.
Okay, hold on. We got a motion on the floor. We got a motion. Do I have a second? A second from Commissioner Liner. Okay, discussion. Commissioner McKay.
John, where are those 6 structures located?
The homes that we had in the initial application,
Yes.
they're spread basically there and throughout the area. 4 of the structures, one was on River Road, Hyman Road, Cadet School Road, and Up Creek Road. And there are 2 additional alternative units that possibly will come into play in the event that one of those 4 units or more than one of those 4 units come
You said four
determined not eligible.
on River Road and one on Cadet School Road. Where's the other?
No, one each on River Road, one on Hyman, Gadet School Road, and Up Creek Road. Just one structure on each of those roads.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Smith?
Not just for me, but for the public as well. Will you share what the qualification for the person receiving the home would be?
Well, they're going to be low to moderate income. The homes themselves would have received some type of damage, in all likelihood, from a storm event that we had actually held. And, there are individuals that have not received any other form of assistance from any other agency other than possibly some public assistance money to help them with lost belongings or to help them with the fact that maybe they weren't able to reside in the structure at the time of the event.
Now, did they have to apply for this grant?
Yes, ma'am, they did. We went through an application process. We sent out letters and proposals based on information that we had received after the storm events, and as a result of that, they submitted those applications, and then we sat down and reviewed them, and based on that review is how that determination was made. Unfortunately, there's many structures that still need help and assistance. But we felt like these were some of the most deserving that we could see at the time.
Thank you.
All right, other questions? Don, we've been dealing with Cdbg revitalization grants for a number of years, and I know that under certain administrations, as far as in the state, they have designated the funds in different ways. And I know we went through a period of time, and correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as the revitalization of homes, like I think what you're talking about today, had stopped for a period of time. Isn't that correct?
It did.
And we kind of got to maybe a community-based projects. And so now, this is the first one that we've had in some time, I believe, under this designation, correct?
Yes, sir. Going on, I think, 10 or 12 years since
Okay.
we've had this opportunity.
And just the question was asked. That list has been exhausted. I mean, I know commissioners from the years past, we've referred people to planning department to call when they had these questions. My question is, somebody that was on that list 10 years ago, what happened to them? Did they have to reapply for it? Or?
Yes, we did go back through the process of going through the list that we had on file, and we sent a letter out to all those individuals and trying to see if there was still a need, if we were able to get a response back from them. Some of them have passed away. Some of them no longer live by themselves. So we got a kind of an updated list, and we did that about probably 4 years ago, 5 years ago. We did another renewal in the fall. So
I think that's key, Commissioners, what he just said. And the questions that may come to you, well, why didn't we know about this program? Well, they reached back out to folks who were on that list. So I appreciate you doing that.
Sure.
I think that shows good faith in part of the county, and that we are trying to reach out to the citizens that are, in need. All right, any other discussion on the motion? There's a lot of direction under this motion. You see it there. I won't go back over it, but I think you see it in your agenda packet. Hear no more discussion. Madam Clerk, if you will, please call the roll.
Commissioner Mark?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Booker?
Yes.
Chairman Jones?
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
it.
thank you.
Commissioners, next we have appointments. You have under appointments pending, current, and upcoming. Under pending, you have there two listed. Are there any nominations for any pending? All right, hearing none, we will move to current. The first one is the Fire Tax Commissioner. It was deferred at our last meeting on the request of Vice Chair Booker. It does concern a Fire Tax Commissioner for Township 7. Commissioner Booker, I would refer to you.
This is to replace Reuben Hart, who passed away, and the nominee would be, that I nominate, is Brantley Hart.
Okay. Madam Clerk, we have that on file, Mr. Brantley Hart.
Yep.
Okay.
Just came in last week.
Okay. Commissioners, it is not in your agenda packet, but it has been filed with the clerk. And so we have a nomination for Brantley Hart. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, he will be accepted by acclamation. Thank you, sir. Commissioners, there, the next two, you have the Craven County Board of Adjustment, and you also have the Board of Equalization and Review. I think we have also deferred these, with the exception of Mr. Brazelton, which that is a standing one. Did you want to say something, Mr. County Manager?
Mr. Chairman, just because I'm looking at these and to talk with staff, we intend to bring back the bylaw revision to you next month. So if you could hold on these, I think it will clear up for the board how these two are dealt with.
Just a question about that, too, because that was, some of the commissioners had that in days prior. Under the new bylaws, would it affect sitting members or only new appointees? Did we discuss that in our last meeting?
I think it could both. It really depends on how the board wants to go, but particularly with the length of appointment would probably affect the current slate that's here and their ability to be reappointed if you choose to make that change. So yes, it would affect any new appointment, but it could potentially affect ones that are already serving as well.
Okay. Is there a consensus that we defer all the remainder of these? Okay. Hearing none, we would defer. All right. Thank you. And then you see the yes, ma'am.
Have we in a way of knowing how many terms have been served?
Yes.
Yes. If you will look there, the clerk has been trying here recently, and we appreciate that, to put when they were appointed the first time. So look at the Board of Equalization and Review there. I think that one comes from your district, appointed in 2012. And so that's kind of...
And they are appointed for how many years?
Our bylaws state no more than 10 years.
So one appointment goes 10 years?
No.
3 years, I think, for that.
So that's,
But it's still 10 years as a whole.
All right, I see. I got you now.
All right, thank you. All right, then you see your upcoming appointments. Please take note of that. Are there any other appointments to be made? Hearing none, we will move to the county attorney's report. I'm sorry, Mr. Grady. You're trying to come, and I won't let you. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I'm not sure that I would blame you skipping the lawyer on a Monday morning, but I have one item for the board's consideration this morning. It involves county-owned surplus real estate acquired through the tax foreclosure process. This matter involves property at 1275 Old Temples Point Road with a parcel ID number of 5008-016. This is before the board for final approval. Our bid amount was $8,200. The bid was put out and advertised for upset bids. There were no upset bids, so $8,200 becomes the final bid. We've got past due taxes and the cost of foreclosure of $12,228.46. The tax value of the property is $15,000. The board may remember from the initial presentation that the proposed purchaser owns adjoining property, and really at the end of the day, that next door neighbor is about the only person that can probably get any meaningful use from this parcel. With that said, it's my recommendation the board give this final approval.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? The motion is to adopt the resolution for conveyance of 1275 Old Temples Point Road. Hear no further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
That concludes my report.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, next will be the county manager's report. Mr. Vike.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity here. Had Amber step in. I got one item she's going to help me with this morning. Just a couple updates. I want to remind you on Thursday of this week, Commissioner McCabe is hosting the Regional North Carolina Association of County Commissioners district meeting. Be held at the Convention Center, dinners included, and Commissioner McCabe has a great attendance of legislators and other commissioners who will be here to receive an update from the association. So if you haven't RSVP'd with Nan, please do so today before you leave so she can make sure you're on the list. Last week had a good series of meetings with some of our partners. Attended a Highway 70 Corridor Commission meeting with Commissioner Mark, which I'm sure he's going to update you on. A lot going on in the corridor. A lot of emphasis right now being put on the Kinston Bypass. As many of you know, that's a project that's been on the table for some years, but really hasn't received the funding it needs. But see, it appears DOT is really pushing hard to get that funded and get it moving. There is a public meeting, I believe in April, Commissioner Mark, in Kinston, where they're going to give some kind of flyover of what the proposed route would be, and I guess businesses impacted and citizens impacted, things like that. I was unable to attend, but received a report last week from the Dick Center. Commissioner Liner may give an update on that, but I wanted to mention to the board that we had probably the highest amount of usage in the Dick Center last month, which would have been February. We had 16 individuals attend the facility. That's why we pay the money to be a partner there, so folks have an opportunity to use that, families that are in need. The interesting point, 4 of the individuals were diverted from the emergency room, and 1 of the individuals was diverted from jail. So that's exactly what we thought would happen as we start getting that word out about that service. So, Commissioner Liner, I don't know if you're going to plan on touching on that a little bit.
Just talking about they're looking to expand, but they haven't come up with a budget.
Yeah, so there's some expansion potential possibly there. Right now, it's been discussed about a year, Commissioner Liner. There is a large price tag with an expansion, just like the startup costs had a large price tag. I don't believe they're that far down the line, and we're looking for state appropriations to help, but I don't believe it came through in the last session, so I'm assuming they'll continue to work with legislators locally to get that done. Okay, the last thing I want to mention, over the last year or two, Amber Parker, our HR director, who I asked to step in, have been working on a program we think would benefit the county employees. It's a voluntary employee benefits broker and consulting service. So what this group does is it comes in and they represent usually large amounts of clients in the public sector and offer a variety of different voluntary benefits to the county employees. Most counties our size have a broker like this. The programs that they would focus on would be flexible spending accounts, life insurance, vision insurance, critical care insurance, and others. Helps the employee become better prepared to deal with the different challenges life may bring. Sometimes without these products, it can really be detrimental to the employees' well-being and their family's well-being to have to cover some of these costs. We do have a few of the services now. Amber and I've talked. It's not really well organized, and it was something that we inherited from previous administrations. And basically, we went out with an RFP to see what was out there. We had 2 really good proposals that we actually had an interview last week with. Both of them represent county, city, state organizations, really do a fantastic job. And what they can do with economies of scale is they have buying power. They can get their rates extremely low for our county employees and the ability to purchase these products. We have made a determination of what we think is the best fit. It's a company called Mark III. They're based out of Charlotte. They serve 35 different counties in North Carolina, and they have over 150 public sector clients, insuring over 250,000 different employees. They serve North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, and Virginia. There's no cost to the county for this program, but I wanted to make you aware of that as these programs come forward. And, you know, we're just here to inform you of that today. If you have any questions about the services, Amber and I will attempt to answer them.
Any questions from the board?
I'd like to, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make sure that I understand and the public understands. Sure. There's no cost to the county for this program.
No, ma'am.
But Mark III would go out and, for example, make an arrangement with a vision insurance program to get our county employees the lowest rate so that should they choose to purchase that insurance, it would be at the lowest cost possible.
Absolutely. That's exactly the intent. And I'm glad you used vision insurance as an example because we currently have a vision program here. They would recommend the same product, but because of their buying power, they're able to lower the rate and increase the benefit to the employee. That was one of the examples they used in our meeting last week.
Okay, and so this would cover, for example, vision, Can you go
life
over it?
insurance.
Can you go
Yeah,
life
sure.
insurance?
Well, it really depends on what products the employees end up wanting, but the initial variety would be our flexible spending account, which is the FSA program that we currently have. Right now, we use a local vendor, and this company would actually take away some costs from the county that we have to pay for that program now, so it would be cost negligible to us. And that would be the before tax amount you can put in by the federal limit, and the employee then uses that for deductibles or out-of-pocket cost.
So what I call a health savings account.
Health savings account.
Okay.
Life insurance programs, whether it's whole life or term, vision insurance, critical care insurance, hospitalization, short-term disability, long-term disability, cancer policies, a variety of other programs that are covered under those umbrellas. And they have different things like LifeLock and things that may or may not be products that we ask for, identity theft protection and things like that.
But the employees are not required to purchase.
All
it.
voluntary.
This is their choice.
Completely voluntary. We have an open enrollment period in May. Employees can choose to sit down with this. They'll be done 3 ways, whether it's in person, over the phone to a call center, or online. So they'll have either way they want to schedule an appointment. If they choose to use none of the services, that's fine too. We're happy with that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
All right. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Appreciate the update. All right, Commissioners' report. If you can, Commissioner Mitchell, you want to start us off today?
Nothing to report, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Liner,
I have nothing.
Commissioner Smith,
Nothing today, sir.
Commissioner Mark.
I haven't gotten any new information on the hospital this morning, but as of Friday, we had about 8 people covert, 1 in ICU, so that number is greatly going down and probably faster than most of the state. In addition to that, we did go to Highway 70, as Jack had mentioned, and it looks like James City, some of the construction has been started on the side roads going down, and in the spring of this year, which the spring, I think, changed this past Saturday, so the spring can run until June, I guess. More work will be started on James City bypass. The other thing I want to mention is something that I got in the mail, which was Pop Quiz, which is the college. And many of you will remember when Johnny Sampson was here, he talked about what we're doing in the college in the way of helping our people who go there get jobs. And funny, it talks about construction trades, it talks about truck driving, the nursing program we have, which is a terrific program, but this is all for nothing. There's no cost. They're paying 100% of the cost on some of these things. And we're talking about, he used to mention bricklaying, he used to mention painting and whatnot. And it's here. You know, he talked about it for so many years. And was very happy to see this go out.
You said that's offered at the community college?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great idea for, especially today with employment. So that's all I have to report.
Yes, I just echo that. I want to thank Commissioner Mitchell and the Board of Trustees there for the college. I think that has been an emphasis of this Board of Commissioners to try to do more technical education. I think we kind of got off of that for a while, and so that it's good to go back to these.
Well, it is, and when the Vault Center was first put into place, I think there was some question in the community over how well it would be utilized. We have 3 times as many students there as was originally projected, and the course offerings are continuing to expand. So there is a huge demand in this community, and it is being very well utilized, and a lot of our major employers are hiring directly out of the courses.
Right,
So it's great.
Great, thank you. All right, anything else, Commissioner Mark?
No.
All right,
Nothing to report, Mr. Chairman.
all right, thank you. Mr. Vice Chair.
I have nothing to report.
Okay, and I have nothing this morning. Commissioners, we do have a closed session that's been requested pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11.4 to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of industries or other businesses in areas served by the public body. What I will do is ask for a motion in a second. I'm going to ask if we can to take a 5-minute to 10-minute break. We'll come back and go into closed session. So do I have,
moved.
have a motion? Do I have a second? To go into closed session? Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we stand in closed session.